Are you looking for a new job or interested in leveling up? Job Search Radio is your go-to resource for insider tips on job hunting and growing your career. Here's your host, Jeff Altman.
Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and I'm your host for Job Search Radio. This is a time where I spend a few minutes talking to an expert about some element of job hunting, because I believe job hunting doesn't have to be hard, difficult, or painful, or take so long. And, my guest today, Michael Kaplan, he evokes certain struggles with me. As a professional recruiter, I try to work with a lot of different people and try to help them find work. And I've been really successful at it, helping almost 1,200 people find work, and many more consultants find assignments as well. And yet I've struggled in helping people who are separating from the military find work. It's as though I don't understand or speak the right language, and my clients are in much the same boat. So I've reached out to Michael Kaplan, who's the author of The Prior Service Entrepreneur, providing military veterans with the competitive skills to start a successful business, as a way of trying to educate me and help me educate my clients to do a better job. Michael, welcome to Job Search Radio. I appreciate you making time.
Hey, Jeff. Pleasure to invite me. I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you. So there are skills and experiences that veterans have that I think I don't understand. There are skills and experiences that the corporate recruiters don't understand. And there are also mistakes that all three of us, the veteran, the recruiter, the HR professional, are making when evaluating veterans. What sort of mistakes are we all making?
I think one of the first mistakes is a lack of an accurate self-assessment, truly understanding what skills that veterans actually bring to the table. Everybody's looking at job descriptions, hard skills, soft skills. They're not looking at mindset. They're not looking at character. They're not looking at the depth of skills that the military experience actually provides, and I think that mistake is being made by all parties.
And thus, how does someone who's separating from the armed forces communicate that mindset? How does that really come across?
I think what's happening now, people separating from the military are using their skill specialty job description, which is not completely accurate. It's not all-encompassing. And then lost in the translation is a corporate world trying to translate those military skills into a corporate skill, which further takes away from the translation. I think what everybody needs to do is sit down and look at the actual experience, the leadership experience, the skills experience, start from ground zero and try to build an accurate profile of what that veteran brings to the table.
Thank you. Could you give me a concrete example of what a background might look like in military language and how that could be translated into civilian speak?
I'll give you a worst-case scenario. Somebody spends 4 years, 8 years, 12 years in a combat arms, let's say in an infantry unit. They're a sniper instructor. They've gone to ranger school. When they walk out of the military and try to go to look for work in a civilian environment, a business or corporate environment, they don't think any of that training is relevant. In fact, if you look at the leadership skills, if you look at the situational awareness, if you look at the things that people had to experience in these jobs, you'd see they were relevant. Quick example, restaurant manager walks out of the back of the kitchen, prior service military, infantry type, walks into his dining room, picks up a quick scan of the dining room. He can see immediately what the state of the dining room is, what the customers are thinking. That type of situational awareness and observation skill never appears on a resume.
Very cool. And you're right. I know I wasn't trained to look at the background in that way, and I know others haven't been either. A friend of mine was separating from the Air Force recently, and I spent some time working with him, and he'd done a great job in his resume translating into civilian speak. And I know that isn't the case with everyone. And, you know, most of what he did on his own. I did a few tweaks for him, but when all is said and done, it's so important for someone like me, someone like an HR organization, to really understand and appreciate what the extra skill is beyond simply the person has done this. What are the leadership qualities that someone brings in? And how could the veteran guide the uneducated civilian person? What do you think they might be able to communicate, and how might they be able to do it?
The first step for veterans is to demystify the military experience. You have to get past the resume and the rifle. The being in the military requires a lot more than simply being a combat soldier. Unfortunately, as we watch TV, as we watch CNN, Fox News, the only thing that people see as it relates to the military is people doing patrols in desert environments. We have to get past that and show recruiters and HR personnel what these people are actually doing when they're not walking around with a rifle, when they're not flying jet sorties. That's the first step, demystifying the military experience.
Sweet. And in doing that, are they talking about the leadership skills again, or are they talking about other attributes as part of this, educating the dumb recruiter? And I'm speaking about myself here when I use the phrase dumb recruiter.
I think once we get past the obvious combat experience, it's not the leadership. That's a quality, but that's very important experience. I write about that prolifically. I think, though, we have to look at the analytical skills, the problem-solving skills, the ability to adapt and overcome. We have to look at language skills. We have to look at a plethora of skills that people have to employ in their day-to-day life in the military that somehow, once again, lost in the translation, may not have a one-to-one correlation with a particular skill set that an HR computer is going to have. And when we get lost in that translation, it can't parse it and we lose it.
And it sounds like many of my guests, you don't believe in folks applying through the applicant tracking system for much that same reason. The systems don't get it. And there has to be a way of speaking to a human being in order to be able to communicate those qualities, because, again, the tech isn't going to really pick up on that.
Well, I'm not a techno-Luddite by any stretch of the imagination, but I believe technology has to be a supporting system. It can't be a guiding system.
And unfortunately, so many people, so many organizations use it as a guiding system to reject and eliminate rather than screen in. It's clearly about screening out. Although I did have a guest on recently named Chip Lumen from a firm called HireView. And what HireView does is video interviews. So at the time of application, what often happens is people are being given a video interview. So they're in front of the camera and able to communicate those qualities in addition to their skills expertise. Yes, they'll have to answer certain standardized questions, but there's a way of getting personality across. There's a way of getting those additional experiences across in a way that someone is able to see them, not just simply read about them or hear about them. I can just watch the behavior and how congruent it is with someone with that kind of attitude. So, in the standard applicant tracking system, someone gets lost in there. And in a system like HireView and others like it, I think there's a way of breaking through. So we've been talking about this one particular type of mistake that all of us are making. Are there other mistakes that folks are making too?
Yes, there are. It comes down to the self-assessment piece. The first thing that people tend to do is they tend to try to come out of service and they try to continue what they did in service. If that is their passion, if that's their love, then absolutely, drive on, go for it. But there are a lot of times that people will choose a job in the military for reasons other than I truly love it, and then thinking they can't do anything else, they try to move forward with that. Inevitably, they're going to fail. If they're not going to fail, they're going to be successful and highly miserable. That would be a second mistake.
And thus, give me an example of that mistake and how someone could correct it?
An example of that mistake would be somebody who took the ASVAB, maybe scored particularly high in a particular area, was pushed by a recruiter to go into this area because of a signing on bonus or whatever it may be, took the advice of the recruiter, got into this, maybe did well, but doesn't truly actually enjoy it. Let's say the person's a combat engineer. Let's say the person could have been nuclear power, but decided instead to take electrical. They made career choices based on what that recruiter did. They got locked in. They stayed in. Now they're coming out. They don't necessarily have to continue on that track. They need to self-assess, find out what drives them, find out what they truly want to be good at, what direction they want to go. And there's nothing wrong with starting with a blank slate. You don't lose all the experience going forward.
If anything, starting with the blank slate going forward, you're right. You never lose everything. If anything, it's an additional attribute you bring to the party, and thus are able to stand out amongst the rank civilian beginners for those leadership qualities, for those experiences, and will really allow someone to excel.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody's worried about starting from scratch anyway, and then to think about changing careers, they think they're going to lose that experience, and nothing could be farther from the truth.
I agree. And folks, we'll be back with more from Michael in just a moment, but first my Job Search Insider tip. And this particular tip is a LinkedIn tip. Now, let's say you're targeting a particular organization, and you go to the LinkedIn page for that firm, and you know that in what's currently in the right-hand column, perhaps at some point it'll change in the future, there's a place where you can find people who are currently in your personal network that already work at that firm. Maybe you know that already. But there's another feature on that same page that I think is overlooked and can be really very helpful, and that is you'll look for another area where it says people who looked at this page also looked at, and it'll list another group of firms there. The reason I bring this to your attention is you may not know about these organizations, or it may have just slipped your mind. And these become additional places that you can network with that are perhaps in a similar line of business or require people with similar types of skills. And thus, if you click at each of those particular organizations, you'll also see people who are already in your network that might be able to provide you with introductions to that firm as well. So don't just simply focus on that one organization that you may have targeted. It's worthwhile to learn about others as well, so that this way you can broaden your search a little bit, learn more. Maybe you're not interested in that firm, but again, go exploring at some of these other organizations that people have been looking at as well. So that's my tip for this show. Let's come back to Michael Kaplan and continue our conversation. So, Michael, we've already been speaking about some of the mistakes that veterans, third-party recruiters like myself, and corporate HR are making when dealing with or evaluating and assessing the veteran who's separating from the armed forces. If we were to give people a few clear steps that they should be taking when they separate in order to attack the civilian workforce and find that job that they truly want, walk me through some of those things that people should be doing. And I know you spoke about the self-assessment process as being important, and if I can translate that in for the listeners, it's the process of looking at what you did in the service, whether you really liked it. If you did, great. You continue with trying to find work along those lines. If you didn't, this is the time to make an adjustment. Was I correct in that summary?
That's most of it, yes. Then, of course, there's the psychological and emotional component, but for all intents and purposes, absolutely.
Thank you. What other things should people be doing to find work and be more effective in their job search?
Two things that immediately come to mind are critical. You alluded to one of them in your tip. But first, I would encourage everybody coming out of the service to find a mentor, find a coach. Not necessarily a recruiter, although they're going to come in handy later on down the line, but finding people who have successfully separated, transitioned, reintegrated back into the workforce, have become successful, seek those people out. They are out there. They're willing to help. I know that I do that on a regular basis. And find them and have them guide you. There's no reason that you have to walk through the process without having a team of mentors supporting you. That's definitely the first step.
And how could someone find those mentors?
They find them by doing the second step, which is networking. You alluded to LinkedIn. The joke is if you're not networking, you're not working. So the networking piece is absolutely huge. Building a strong networking profile. I don't want to say social media because it's all about LinkedIn. So getting a strong LinkedIn profile, building it out, looking at what other profiles work, seeing what people are doing, getting all that information in there, and then with a laser focus, going after connections in that network list that are actually going to be beneficial, people who are accessible, people who will talk to you. That is huge.
And I'm going to ask you a question because I'm not sure, but it comes to mind. I'm wondering if Facebook may actually be a helpful tool to find that mentor as well, because if the person, while they've been in the service, has made connections with other people on Facebook who've already separated, that might be a way that they can also connect with people and then tie it into the LinkedIn profile later on.
Perhaps, but I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. I would say Twitter before Facebook. A lot of professional organizations have a presence on Twitter. If you look at what Facebook is doing to destroy its organic ranking, it will not display things in real time that are in front of you. It filters, and personally, to me, that is just a purely social media tool. After LinkedIn, I would have to say Twitter.
Terrific. And how might someone find an individual through Twitter? What sort of steps might they do to locate that potential mentor?
Using the Twitter search function, they can seek out organizations in the industry that they're actually interested in, people who are in that industry. They can go and look at their Twitter pages, see what they talk about. If it's relevant, they can follow those people, and they may get followed back. They can start a dialogue. They can start the interaction. And these are people that will actually bring the conversation from online to offline, unlike Facebook, which is very difficult to make that transition from online to offline with people.
I agree with you. And part of my role here is to ask the questions to make sure the loops are closed for listeners, to seek opinions from an expert. And thank you for playing advocate for Twitter there. I happen to agree with you. It's a superior platform that's clearly underutilized by job hunters.
Absolutely.
So we've been talking so far about the self-assessment, finding a mentor, and doing the process of networking to find that mentor. What else can people and organizations be doing to improve the effectiveness of the veteran landing?
Organizations are starting to focus on this. My particular job function, as you know, I design training programs for the military, for academic, and for the corporate world that helps veterans transition. My focus is on business and entrepreneurship, of course, but other people are doing this in other areas. That's a huge piece. The other thing that can happen is these veterans can simply go out and seek resources that exist online, books, blogs. We write regularly, for example, on LinkedIn. That is a free, huge source of valuable information that starts a dialogue and positions somebody to find those mentors and organizations that they need.
So if you're going to LinkedIn to find that mentor or someone to network with, Facebook, in fact, has created this enormous blog called the LinkedIn Publishing Platform. And there's a lot of noise there, but there's a lot of good material there that people can find and thus tie back to the original authors that they might reach out to. Are there other ways that you could see using LinkedIn effectively as the job hunter here?
Sure, you can use the job function. Job postings are there. Once again, it's all driven. Obviously, the more connections you have, the more opportunity you have, but using their search function is an incredible tool. Being able to connect with people and then go in and look at their connections directly is a valuable tool. Going in and researching companies on LinkedIn is a valuable tool. And then, of course, as I alluded to, the articles and the individuals.
And I'll tack in groups because I think there are many groups that are designed to deal with veterans in transition. There's one huge group with over 100,000 members that's specifically focused on that. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. I'll put it in the show notes later on as a way of helping people begin the process of connecting with groups as well. One of the additional advantages other than the one-on-one relationship building is through groups. You can start to create an impression with these people of you as an individual, you with your challenges, you with your abilities, and begin the dialogue with people within the group by just being a participant. And
absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're my guest. You're always first here. Please put in your thoughts.
I'm glad you brought up the groups. I belong, more groups than I care to admit to, but the Veterans Mentor Network is probably one of the largest groups in LinkedIn, and that is an incredible resource. They don't allow spam. They don't allow ads. They're only there to help veterans. So the Veterans Mentor Network. And then I would also add, if somebody is a subject matter expert and they're passionate and they like to write, LinkedIn has now given everybody a publisher function where they can actually create articles and publish them and distribute them throughout their network, which if a prospective employer has an interest, they can go in, they can read your voice, they can see your knowledge, and that might be another benefit as well.
You betcha. And the Mentor Network was what I was trying to think of before. So I'm glad it came to your mind. I was having a brain cramp there and struggling to remember the name of the group. So we've covered a lot of different points here so far in our time with one another. And I want to make sure that you have your full voice here to be able to speak with veterans, speak with organizations and third-party recruiters about being more effective. So we will only have a finite amount of time with one another. What sort of final points do you want to make here that would help people find work more quickly?
I think the two biggest points that I would make is for veterans that once again, they need to find a mentor. They need to sit down and truly identify their skill set separate and distinct from their job description. Recruiters who are playing both sides of the fence, if they haven't been in the military, they need to demystify the military experience and then completely demystify it on the corporate side. And these corporations have to start interacting, inviting in veterans who've been successful out in the workforce to consult, offer them the training programs that they need to educate them. When all three sides of the triangle are educated, the problem is going to go away.
Now, other than hiring you, how can a third-party recruiter demystify that military experience for themselves and be able to be more effective?
By utilizing the plethora of resources that we have discussed so far, by getting onto Amazon, by reading books on the topic from subject matter experts other than myself, by getting into these networks, by working with the transition to systems programs and the ACAP programs on military bases. They're just not connecting the dots. Everybody's there to help. They need to be good systems managers and connect the dots.
Thank you. And you've given out a lot of great information that I think will be helpful for everyone in this triangle, to land work more quickly, to demystify the military experience, and begin the process of communicating in a common language that will allow everyone to get what they really want, which is a job, a placement, a great new hire. How can people reach you? How can organizations reach you to find out the kind of advice or programs that you create?
I am highly accessible. Although I don't speak highly of Facebook, I'd be noticeably absent if I wasn't there. Any one of the social media platforms, michaelikaplan.com. In LinkedIn, in Twitter, in Facebook, I can be found. In Google, I can be found. That's the best way. I can be found in Amazon because I am a published author. So through all those means, if somebody were to Google Michael I. Kaplan and let's say the word veteran, I would pop up everywhere.
And I want to provide a plug for your book, The Prior Service Entrepreneur, providing military veterans with the competitive skills to start a successful business. Folks, if you go on to Amazon, you can read a preview of the book. It is wonderful.
I will add, Jeff, that
yes.
I'm sorry, even though it's written for entrepreneurs, it's written for intrapreneurs too. So the information in the book I'm finding out is being used in the corporate world as well as entrepreneurship. So even mainstream job seekers will derive benefit from the book.
I agree wholeheartedly. And just reading that opening chapter, I just want to say how touched I was by one phrase that was repeated as the chapter title. Anything is possible. Whether you're a veteran leaving the service, whether you're a third-party recruiter trying to support someone leaving the service in finding work, or in the corporate world, whether you're thinking of starting a business or you're struggling in your current one, it's a great reminder to hear the phrase, anything is possible. And it doesn't mean it's like candy. There's clearly effort that has to be put out there. But anything can be possible. Michael, thank you so much for making time today. I really appreciate it.
Jeff, thank you for having me as a guest. I'm honored to have been here.
Thank you. And folks, we'll be back next time with more advice to help you find work more quickly. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and I have a lot of content available at my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. So I want to encourage you to come over to the site and go exploring. We've got podcasts, video, articles I've written about different elements of job hunting. You can receive a complimentary subscription to No BS Job Search Advice e-zine, which I publish every other week with advice for job hunters to find work more quickly. There's information about my books and guides to job hunting, which pay what you want for them. Right now, if you can't afford anything, download them for free. They're available to help you find work more quickly. And again, go over to the website and go exploring. In addition, I want to mention, if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, the address there is linkedin.com/IN/the-big-game-hunter. I accept connection requests from people worldwide, except if you're a third-party recruiter in a country known for scams or spam. Then I won't do it. And finally, for those of you who would like coaching from me, I'm happy to do coaching. You can find out about my programs at the website. If you're in the military, send me an email at jeffaltman@thebiggamehunter.us. I